Hi, friends. Host Eric here, host Talking with Famous People. And this morning, as I periodically do, I woke up mad. What did I wake up mad at? A lot of different things. First, I was mad at my old boss, which has happened years ago. And then I was mad at my old coworker for shit that happened years ago at the same time. Same situation, basically. Then I was mad at Putin. Mad at China. I'm mad at... I just don't just wake up mad, you know? I woke up mad at Putin this morning. I woke up having fantasies of capturing Putin and imprisoning him in a secret location. But, you know, after I roll around in bed a bit and God, fuck, I hate that guy. Well, okay, maybe not by myself. Well, that's why in my fantasies, you know, I have some sort of superpower in which I can seize him without even being noticed, you know. Fucking Putin. What an asswipe. And China, too. China is just getting out of hand with its imperialism. I'm sick of it. I am sick of it. And speaking of dictators, what about that Kim Jong-un fellow? I don't like him at all. I woke up a little bit mad at Sheila, too. Sheila came in here yesterday, and she's like, I want you to see my Instagram so you can see all my SE. She's been trying to convince me she's an ISFP for like 2 years now. I typed her as ISFJ. And then I got an email after the stream yesterday saying I was so harsh to her. It's like, come the fuck on. I'm so harsh. I was not harsh. If you didn't continue for 2 years telling me, trying to convince me that I'm wrong about typing you, after I typed you twice, well, I don't know what to say. It's like I'm going to tease you a little bit because that's just how it is. Hardly so harsh. I could never Jung. Jung is too strong. Jung's too strong for me to beat up. I'm not mad at Jung. I know I can't beat up Jung. I don't know if you've heard the story, Carissa. But when Jung insisted when he was young, once he got, oh, you want to put Putin versus Jung? Have you heard the story about Jung when he was a little kid, what he says he did? This has got to be just complete bullshit. He's got to just be making this shit up. He claims, Carl Jung claims that when he was a little kid, he was once surrounded by a group of boys, and he picked up one of the boys and swung him around and knocked over the other boys. I just don't believe that, Carl Jung. I'm sure you're lying. I am not your Najajaja. Okay? I am nobody's Najajaja. The first person you like to see early in the morning is your vagina? That's not a person. God. This is the first person I like to see in the morning. You know, Rachel and I, we go back and forth between the two rooms during the night. So, like, she started out here, sleeping out here. I started out in there. Then she came in there. And then I came out here. But then she didn't know I'd come out here. So then she came out here. And she's like, oh, you're out here? My bad. I'll go back inside. It's just, and then sometimes, like, the only time we really sleep together well is during the day or the morning time when we're napping. Then we sleep fine. But at night, we have to sleep in separate beds because I think it's mostly because of FE tool function. But it's also FE third. It's like, I don't know. There's something about being alone with your SI that makes you sleep better. Vagina and Bob's. Vagina and Bob's sounds like a fish and chip store. Regina, Bob's, and Anus sounds like a law firm, a pornographic law firm. Lower stack SI correlates to the Bergs. I don't know what you mean by the Bergs. Is that what it's called when you're restless at night? Oh. No, I mean, I think polar FE links to the Bergs. You know, it's not, the thing is, there's no such thing called autism spectrum disorder. It's completely bullshit. There's autism, which always includes mental retardation. And then there's regular people who get pathologized by shrinks who think FE is hugely important. That's what there is. Just like ADHD. There's no ADHD. There are people who are bored by the pace of life. You know? I don't have attention hyperactivity deficit disorder. I'm an ENTP. Nothing disordery about that. It just means that I benefit from taking speed sometimes. The Bergs. Carissa, are you the one that Rachel's talking to right now? Her phone's not working. If you're the one she's talking to right now. Well, I would say meth is probably not a good form of speed to choose to do. It's a little hardcore. It's very difficult to manage meth consumption in such a way that it doesn't take over your life. Yeah, well, Adderall is kind of baby meth, I suppose. But the big difference, Carissa, is that, of course, nothing's methylated in Adderall, and it's the methylation that makes meth so overwhelmingly difficult to handle. Having been, in the early 2000s, I was a meth addict for about 3 or 4 years, and it wasn't all bad, but ultimately it wasn't sustainable. So I did get some interesting stuff done, but I think probably the best impact of my years as a well, of course. I mean, nobody should be blowing anything in your face non-consensually, right? Thing is, people have a lot of very strong opinions about certain drugs. The fact is, it's probably never a good idea to get into injecting drugs, for example, like needles, you know? I can't conceive of that really being any possible way to incorporate that into your life that's not entirely toxic, but there's no disputing that, I mean, Carissa G, part of what I think is like, who are you hanging out with? Who are you hanging out with, Carissa? What are you doing in a hotel room with guys smoking meth? Right? I mean, if you're hanging out in a hotel room with guys who are smoking meth and you get a little meth blowing at you, you shouldn't be too shocked, right? It just happened. You're just sitting in your hotel room and suddenly a crazy guy ran into your room and blew smoke in your face? You thought he was an FBI agent? Because tweakers look so much like FBI agents? FBI quality meth? Yeah, he's going deep undercover. God, that tweaker looks exactly like an FBI agent. So yeah, you know, as somebody who's had a history of drug problems and alcohol problems, I'm a lot more accepting of people regardless of their drug habits than most people are. You know, like I said, I was a meth addict for a few years, the early 2000s. And I was also, most importantly, and the one thing that I definitely had to quit because it was destroying my life was alcohol. I was drunk, an alcoholic, you know, and I haven't had a drink in over 7 years now. And no, I never shot up anything. I always said no needles, no PCP. Those are my two number one rules. I never broke them. He was at a gas station pump across from me. He says, turns to you and says, "What if this is all a dream?" You're like, "Wouldn't doubt it, man." Pumping premium, eating wagyu, and blowing meth smoke. That's what you expect, you know. Can I get a little bit more meth with my Kobe beef, please? Smart choice. I mean, the thing is, Karma's pimping everybody. When it comes to methamphetamine, almost nobody can handle it for any length of time at all. Almost nobody. I handled it better than everybody else who I knew who did it. But I still couldn't handle it forever. It was the reason I handled it better is because whenever I did it, instead of masturbating or picking at myself, I would make art. So it's like it was a different experience for me than for most people. I didn't put tinfoil over the windows or whatever. In fact, I didn't even really try to hide it. I was kind of like, fuck you all. I don't care what you think. But, in retrospect, that was a little methy of me. Oh, well, sure. I mean, you can cheat. I'm not saying you can't cheat. You're right. And in fact, I do have one instance of somebody who I'm convinced did that. I have one instance because this individual went out of their way to come disprove my TI test, and it felt very much like that. Is it lucky? I've thought about this notion many times before about maintenance costs. Everything you own has a maintenance cost, How do I experience it? Being SI inferior, I avoid accumulating objects by and large. I mostly spend my money on consumables. Even when I need objects, should get them, it would make sense to buy them. I put off buying them forever. So it's like, I'll spend $2,000 on various consumables before I spend $200 on an external compressor that I need for my audio. I don't know. Just how it is. I don't like space objects. I don't like stuff. I don't like clutter. And yet it accumulates anyway. I like to collect little rocks when I go out. Like whenever Rachel and I go someplace to like hike or whatever, I always look for cool little rocks to bring home. But then, all of a sudden you got a pile of rocks at your house. And what the fuck are you going to do with a pile of rocks? Really. It doesn't matter how cool they are. It's like, they're just rocks. But that's just how I roll. I don't know. Inferior SI we're talking about right now. Fourth slot SI. Fourth slot SI is one of the nice things about fourth slot SI is that I'm sorry to hear that, New Jack. I hope this live stream can cheer you up a little bit. I used to be more hoardy. I used to gather up things that I thought I might use someday, If I saw something really cool in someone's trash or whatever, I'd be like, I might use that for something. Yeah, it probably is a bad idea to do any drug that takes over your life. And it's fair to say that meth takes over your life. I would strongly... 8 slot SI, things hurt me forever, and I repeat mistakes in cycles. You hoard musical instruments? Well, that's a good thing to hoard, New Jack. That's the best possible thing to hoard. That's what I wish I hoarded, right? Right now, I still make lots of music, but I only have one instrument. I have an acoustic guitar. Everything else, I got to find samples or whatever. I wouldn't recommend it, New Jack. If anybody is inclined to do amphetamines of some sort, don't do meth. Just get Adderall or something, With Adderall, you can manage it. One of the biggest problems with meth is that it's almost impossible to control your dosage. Only from the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Meth. They changed the M to an I for yeah. And that's bullshit. Let me explain this, okay, Boba Fett. It doesn't matter how much crime there is in a black market. it's not the consumer's fault, right? The problem is the illegality, not the purchasing. So you might say, well, don't purchase blood diamonds. I'd say it's not my fault they're blood diamonds. Tell the people who make them that way or get them that way not to produce them that way. I'm the consumer. I'm not responsible for the producer's responsibility. Obviously. It's the stupidest argument I've ever heard. That because some fucked up law creates a black market that generates criminal enterprise, that what any sensible human being can easily predict. But okay, Carissa, remember, there are no positive moral obligations, only positive moral indications. So you might feel that a boycott is positively morally indicated, and others might disagree. The point is, whether or not Chick-fil-A hates homosexuals is irrelevant to whether I eat their sandwiches, obviously. No, it is morally irrelevant. My eating a sandwich of theirs is only an affirmation of their sandwich, nothing else. That's it. Just because I like your sandwich doesn't mean I agree with your fucking politics, obviously. Well, no, I don't agree with you, Carissa G. I think you're mixing your frames of reference incorrectly. So in other words, you don't confuse buying a chicken sandwich for a political decision. That's the number one obligation you have. Don't confuse buying a chicken sandwich for a political decision. Your consumer choices are non-political. When people try to make them political, that's when fucked up shit happens, right? That's why we have violent cartels and stuff, because people made our consumer decisions to purchase drugs political. Right? I'm not responsible for anybody's bad behavior but my own. So, for example, when I went to, it is political. That's the problem. That's what I'm saying. You have an obligation not to mistake your consumer decisions for your political positions. If you want to be a smart person, if you don't, then go ahead and be an idiot. I don't care. Just think about it, for fuck's sake. How many parts go into an automobile? Made by how many different enterprises? Are you responsible for the behavior of every single one of those subcontractors? Well, I mean, obviously, masks are very political. That's a different matter. That's not a consumer decision. Right. There may be meatpacking plants that treat animals horribly, and I deeply oppose that. And it's also the case, what Aaron said, if I buy a piece of meat at the supermarket, I'm absolutely not paying for animals to be tortured. You don't have to torture animals to turn it into a piece of meat. I mean, pot's not a bloody drug anymore. It used to be in the 80s when there were all these zero tolerance policies and huge criminal penalties. It used to be a very bloody drug. And my consumption of it was no more wrong then than it is now. Right? I'm talking about what ought to be politicized. Religion, to a certain extent, ought to be politicized in the sense that if people are using it as political justifications, then those justifications need to be quashed, you know? But just like in the sense that if people are trying to make political decisions with their consumer choices, they're just playing into the hands of marketers, you know? The only thing that should be politicized is policy. That's why it's called politics, is because it's about public policy, right? So we should understand public policy well and what the government ought to do and limit our politics primarily to that. If we're really concerned about a company being evil or something, then and we choose not to buy anything from that company, then that's fine. That's our choice. But the idea that somehow there's anything universalizable about that is ridiculous. Hero Lamb, that's ridiculous to say that crops are way less nutritious than they were 50 years ago. People in the first world are more well-fed and healthier than they've ever been in history. Right? I mean, we know that. They're taller. They're healthier. I agree, New Jack. Exactly. People need to... I mean, the thing is, I've never been into cocaine. I've never liked it. Every time I've done it, I've been like, ew, I don't want to do that again. Then maybe I'll do it again, and I'll be like, ew, I still don't want to do that again. It's like I explained to people. McDonald's is probably the healthiest food in the world. After all, it's the most thoroughly tested. I eat it practically every fucking day. Look, I never have liked cocaine. It's not because it makes you go faster. It doesn't. Cocaine is, though I don't like this expression, I will use it anyway. Cocaine is the ugly older sister of amphetamines. It's just not worth your time or energy. If you want something that makes you go faster, do amphetamines. But the thing is, amphetamines are something you have to manage, you know? It's like it takes there's no free lunch in life. Every time you seize energy with amphetamines to accomplish something, then you have to pay that back with extra SI, extra eating, extra drinking liquids, extra. Some guy proved that McDonald's is the most nutrition value for the output of energy required to obtain it in the history of the planet. I believe it. I mean, Rachel and I went there yesterday. What did we get for lunch? She gets a 6-piece chicken nuggets with a sweet and sour dipping sauce. We split a large fries. I get the 2 McDoubles for $3.50, and we each get a large Coke. Comes out to $12. I mean, come on, right? That's a deal. That's a fucking bargain. Lunch for 2 for $12, and you're full at the end of it and satisfied. And of course, here's the thing about McDonald's. It's important to remember this. Let's just all celebrate this reality together. There's only really one chain that is absolute. Well, there's two, but In-N-Out I won't count because they're not really national. Okay. There's really only one chain that you can thoroughly, consistently count on to always have good, and that is McDonald's, Coca-Cola. I don't mean to confuse us with this drug conversation. But good Coca-Cola. McDonald's always has good Coca-Cola, no matter which McDonald's you go to. It's like, unlike Jack in the Box is a total crapshoot. You do not know what your Coke is going to taste like. You just do not know. You go to Popeyes, what do they got? Pepsi products. I'm not opposed to Pepsi, but come on, right? Is Pepsi okay? Wouldn't you hate to work at any place that served Pepsi products instead of Coke? You spend all day saying, "Is Pepsi okay?" Correction. You can sometimes almost nearly prove, sometimes any absurdity. You don't have enough difference. You don't have enough SI to tell the difference between Coca-Cola and Pepsi. I mean, I don't know. All I'm just saying, it is my favorite Dwang. The beautiful one. It might be an SI thing. Some people use it to clean toilets. Really? I wonder why. I don't know if I could tell the difference between Coke and Pepsi either if you just handed me one without any, like, if you did the Pepsi challenge, gave me a cup of Pepsi and a cup of Coke with ice in it and no label or anything, so I couldn't see which one it was. I don't know what I'd choose. I've never tried it, but low and polar SE folk can enjoy pizza, ice cream, or sex. SI. SE is not really so much. Sex is not so much SI. Sex is a lot of things. I think sex most correlates with SE, but there's a lot of things going on with sex. So yes, INTPs and INFPs can still enjoy sex. Okay. I think, though, it's much more true to say that SI polar people can't enjoy pizza and food and stuff like that. I think that your ENFJs, your ENTJs, they basically don't taste their food as they're eating it. They're focused on something else, Well, my point is that you can fail to tell the difference between Pepsi and Coca-Cola. Cocaine. You can fail to tell the difference between Pepsi and Coke and still enjoy sex. That's all I'm saying. Okay? Do you think Coke Zero and normal Coke taste different? I don't think I've had Coke Zero before. I don't want it. I don't like no sugar drinks at all. Well, that would be SE Polar, I guess. You're always thinking, as she's blowing you, you're like, I wonder if she's using extrovert sensing right now. Are you curious about what cognitive function she's using as you're having sex with her? Is that FE or is that FI? What does the dollar menu even mean? Last time I looked, there was a big tasty with Coke and medium fries for $15.11, which is like 15 pieces of those pizza. I don't know. You got some kind of weird foreign McDonald's. I have no comment on weird foreign McDonald's. I've been to a couple weird foreign McDonald's. Like in McDonald's in Austria, they have I suspect I'd be able to tell them apart. I just haven't tasted. I mean, I just so rarely get Pepsi, I guess. The further away you get from Atlanta, Georgia, the less likely a place is to serve Pepsi, I think. Oh, I see. Polar SI here. I eat bland food almost every day. My focus with food is not for sensory pleasure, but rather the energy and nutrients it provides after a workout. Me too. After I smoke a cigarette, later I'm going jogging, and then, I'm going to need some nutrients. That's such an ENTJ thing to say. Listen, Shibo, I gotta tell you some bad news. Life's not all about improvement and attaining results, okay? There's a huge part of life that's all about fucking around. You're missing out on that part. Suffer now and bask in your achievements later? I'll tell you something, Shibo. Achievements aren't much good for basking in. I mean, had some notable achievements in my life. I can tell you that they rarely come up, and when they do, it usually causes me problems because it sounds like I'm being self-aggrandizing. Fodilius, if that were true, then I could maximally empower you by cutting off your legs and arms. So, obviously, Nietzsche's completely full of shit. Why are NTPs prone to addiction? I would say it'll be fine. It'll be fine if you do. Just eat whatever you want, Shibo. Find your inner SI. You know what I think is a really good way to tell whether people are SI front stack or not is to ask them what they do as they're going to sleep. I think SI people end up sort of telling themselves stories or relating the events of the day in their head, depending on where it is in the stack. And I think NI people have some other kind of way of going to sleep, like relaxing various parts of their body on purpose, or I'm not sure, but like Rachel clearly goes to sleep in a very different way than I go to sleep. She likes to have stuff going on in the background when she's going to sleep. I don't. Can you switch around your sleeping schedule pretty flexibly? It does switch around quite a bit, and it's mostly out of my control. Although, Rachel's helped me to be a little bit more regular in my sleeping patterns. When I'm going to sleep, I fall through with my 30-minute nighttime routine and turn on a podcast till I pass out. So yeah, listening to stuff. KE, you like to listen to stuff? Okay, well, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger is the platitude with the most wrongness value in the history of platitudes. I totally agree with that. Listen to audiobooks all night long, you're so lonely? I'm sorry to hear that. Parkinson's, for instance. Yeah. So, New Jack, tough it out, you know, as best you can. Know that things change. Sometimes things change on a dime. Like things will be the same for months, and then they'll just change on a dime. Everything will be different all of a sudden. So, you know, rely on the inevitability of change. Look for it. I'd also recommend, even though it sounds super gay, I'd also recommend prayer. It helps me when I'm down. I had to undertake that behavior to quit drinking. It's something I've maintained. Remember that to pray is not to affirm any arguments, right? A lot of people assume that if you're going to pray to an almighty God, then you must affirm that he exists or that you believe or whatever. Of course, it's not that at all. It's a faith properly executed is a behavior, not an argument. So what I would say is if you're feeling blue, try that maybe. It helps for me. You know, I was feeling very blue a couple nights ago just because of my amphetamine cycle primarily. And I prayed and I felt better. All right, so this is 12 steps that emancipated you from cigarettes. Well, I didn't do any 12 steps. I just did like 4 steps, maybe, maybe 3. That was all the steps I needed. I think chalk it up to experience is a much more honest way of saying that, you know, rather than what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Just say chalk it up to experience. You go, you know, you're going to make some mistakes. You're going to try to learn from them, right? What am I smoking? I'm smoking what's called Hell OG. This is Cali Hell OG. You know, Boba Fett, I didn't have a whole hell of a lot of amends to make, actually. Because even when I was drunk, I've always been very objectively self-critical. So I tended to Cali Hell OG. Yeah, that's what the strain's called. But most indicas these days have OG in them somewhere. There's an indica strain called OG that basically is kind of like the Seattle slew of weed strains. Seattle slew is famous for siring like 1,000 winners or something. So if you know anything about horse racing, well, OG is like that strain kind of. Yeah, it's at best aspirational, at worst misleading, or even bad advice, you know. Yeah, one sativa gummy is probably not going to do much to you. Well, because it's objectively not true that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So what I mean by it's at best aspirational is saying I can emerge from this negative experience on the other side a better person or a stronger person. Okay, well, that's all well and good, but like I said, I think a better way of expressing that is chalk it up to experience, because there, you know, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger is NI run amok. Chalk it up to experience is SI having its proper domain. Right. Yeah, it does objectively make you weaker. So you know what I really like? I really like when I have a snappy retort. And I'll remember it, you know. I'll remember my snappy retorts. And I'll smile about them later on in the day. Like yesterday, somebody, I think it was probably Cloud in disguise, said something about, named a couple of purported INTJs from anime. And was like, if INTJs are like, man, how do you explain these people? And I said, it's like asking, it's like saying, well, you say you don't believe in faster than light travel, but then how do you explain Star Wars? And that's an example of analogical thinking. You know, that's what ENTPs are really all about, is analogical thinking, which is something that I heard first from, of all people, EJR&D, for any of you who may remember him. He was in the personality type community when I first came around, and not much longer than that. Well, here's an example of something that both doesn't kill you and makes you stronger. Lifting weights. Lifting weights, scientific fact, doesn't kill you, makes you stronger. Okay? The problem is that finding an example consistent with the rule doesn't prove the rule, right? So yes, we can come up with examples of things that both don't kill you and make you stronger, such as lifting weights. But that doesn't mean that that which does not kill you makes you stronger. Lifting weights kills you, though? Okay, well, then, but it could kill you. Well, not if you lift very small weights. Or how about swimming pool jumping jacks? Swimming pool jumping jacks in shallow, safe water with a lifeguard don't kill you, but they make you stronger. You have died many times. Oh. Okay, well, yeah, all those things might be true. But nevertheless, as a general rule, we could affirm the fact that, generally speaking, lifting weights both doesn't kill you and makes you stronger. Whereas we could not affirm the general rule that that which does not kill you makes you stronger. To try to attempt to affirm that rule would be insane. Okay, Gary, we don't need to make the statement more complicated. Okay. The statement can be stated for all P and for all X upon action P upon person X. If person X isn't killed upon after action P upon themselves, then person X is going to be strong. That's much clearer. Yeah, that's Gary. That's a lot clearer. Most of the clown, I don't doubt that you would accidentally hit yourself in the face with small weights because you're so strong. But I'm so weak that I would just barely even be able to lift them up. So, you know, therefore we balance each other out and nothing happens. That's how reality works. You've died trying many times to be an ESTP INFJ hybrid. Yeah. Well, you know what Rachel and I did yesterday it's some pretty hard work for a couple of intuitives with lower SE. We went to the mall and returned things. Oh, Ay. It was crowded too. Tell me about your favorite anime and why it's better than the rest. That is such a tough question to answer. Hi, Suda. How draining for me? How draining for me too. But she's the one who wanted to return things, not me. She put those things off. We should talk about it for a few days before we actually do it. I just appreciate Nietzsche for what he is. A great example of bullshit TE&I stuff. That's what he is. I appreciate him for that. I appreciate him for being such a great example of bullshit and ITE stuff. So, favorite anime? That is such a tough question. For a while, I was saying my favorite one was Fire Force, which unfortunately doesn't appear to be getting a third season. I really did enjoy Fire Force a lot, but I've watched so many anime, it's a very difficult question to answer. God, it's like I can't begin to keep track of all the anime I've watched. My favorite. I mean, you're hard pressed to go wrong with Attack on Titan at picking it as a favorite because it's just so goddamn epic, It's super epic. It's super weird and exciting, and if you could binge that shit, it's fantastic. It sucked when I ran out of episodes and I couldn't binge it anymore. The other factor that's important is whether or not you get to binge a thing. It makes a big difference regarding like how enjoyable it is. I will say that of the new ones, one of my very favorite new anime that I'm watching week to week is So I'm a Spider, So What? I like that a lot. I think it's a lot of fun. It's delightful. You take your call, New Jack. Don't you worry about it. All right. Tell him I say hi. Do I like and or what do I think of Frank James? Yeah, I like Frank James. I think he's fine. I don't watch his videos really, but Rachel watches them sometimes, and I'm impressed that he blew up the way that he did, because it's like there was a time when he and I were the same size, so that's just how shit goes. He's pretty funny. It's very consumable, bite-sized little bits of media. He puts the effort into producing them well, and it's good stuff. It's. I generally am not super impressed with content that hits on that broad of a level. Sometimes, it depends on the kind of content, I guess. But I think he does a good job. I think he's right. He's gotten good at those skits. He's not pretending to be a guru or anything. He's remarkably. I don't think I have type policed him, but I do think he's an INFJ, or I have in the past. I mean, the thing is, a guy made a joke about fucking your wife to your wife, her close friend's husband, and the friend was in the room, but I was not. Is that worth checking him over or let it go? I I mean, it's hard to know. It's hard to know exactly how that joke was made or what, you know? I guess I would say there's not enough information to be sure. Obviously, the way you put it, I would say the obvious answer is something like what Skygear says, but it's like how did he do it is an important question, right? I mean, maybe the joke was, that's about as likely as me fucking you. In which case, it's not really so bad, right? If he's trying to make a point that it's impossible, it's never going to happen, and he's comparing it like that, well, then you probably are, it may be still a mistake, but you probably just want to let that slide, right? It kind of reminds me of Meghan Markle's comment about the royals and their commenting in some fashion upon race or the skin color of the baby. Well, the way the good joke, but you're mad. My name means plum in Turkish. Eric does, or Strauss? It's Toast Eric. I'm not Toast Eric. Well, Piss Stofferson, here's the problem you got now. Is let's say you do confront him about it, you're just going to seem insecure. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Oh, Eric means plum. So my name in Turkish and then German means plum ostrich. I'm plum ostrich. That's a good alias for me or something, right? If I become an international art thief, I'll go by plum ostrich. And then then I'll be like, how did you catch me? And they'll say, well, your name means Eric Strauss. I was like, oh, that was dumb of me. Plum Ostrich is an Xbox gamer tag? Plum Ostrich, really? Who knew? Well, you know what my name anagrams to? This is why I don't need to keep Plum Ostrich for myself, because I already have Rice Ass Rest. My name anagrams into Rice Ass Rest. That's pretty good, huh? I'm making another cup of coffee. My blog's pretty good. Oh, thanks. Sure, I haven't put anything on it in a long time, really, but yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Piss Stofferson. The question is, how do you approach it? No, I try not to double down on my hellish situation and bask in the insanity of it. I mean, I get the idea. Sometimes when things start falling apart, you just want them to just completely fall apart. But that's a little SC polar. So, okay, go back to Piss Stofferson's question. Here's the thing. You got to anticipate if you say something like, hey, I didn't like that, then he's going to be like, dude, lighten up. I was just joking. Yeah, right? And then what are you going to say? I mean, if you want to, if you know you're going to handle it, read your plan up above. I don't see it. Maybe. Wait, so you say my girlfriend is looking for a place to move, but then later you say she's your wife. Do you have a girlfriend and a wife? Or is this the same person? I sometimes refer to Rachel as my wife too, so I get it if that's the deal, but I don't see your plan anywhere. It doesn't show up. I don't see it. Talk about your inner ISFJ, Eric, or the concept of art. Are you totally dismissive of it, or will stress bring out your inner ISFJ thoughts, please? Oh yeah, cool. Right on. Yeah, I mean, yeah, YouTube deleted it. I guess. I guess not. So, do I have an inner ISFJ? I mean, it's definitely the case that when I'm feeling traumatized, depressed, or whatever, that I turn to SI. I don't see that as really as being an inner ISFJ. I see the constancy of the ISFJ as something that I kind of yearn to express more of, but never successfully sustain. The number one thing about SI being that it's consistent. It's the same thing as it was before. And it runs counter to that fundamentally. So I always feel as though I could use more SI. But at the same time, I never really feel like I have time for it or an interest in it until I overdo it, and then I gotta retreat to my SI. The nice thing about being an ENTP with FI polar is basically whenever I feel sad, I always know what the answer is. Take a bath, eat some food, go to sleep. And you'll feel better when you wake up. And usually I do. Like, I suspect the reason I woke up mad this morning was because after like 2 full days of sleeping to recover from my Adderall bottle, I took 20 milligrams yesterday, which didn't really do much. It just sort of, allowed me to get various things done that I wanted to get done. And well, Julius says my inner ESTP both stresses me out and makes me feel inadequate. Also makes me stronger by not killing me. That's a bad idea. That's a bad plan, Skygear. That's a terrible plan. Not a good idea. Terrible plan. If life was a video game, the most balanced type would be ISFJ. The maxed out stats would be ENTJ. I'm still waiting to evolve to my ultimate ENTJ form. Well, most balanced type. KE, even though I can usually find something wrong with what people say, That sounds right to me. Hi, Lauren Cuthbert. You can get a whoop whoop. Sure. Whoop whoop. The funniest story about my dad. My dad, I don't know what the funniest story is. I have, he's a great guy. But, well, I'll tell you what happened yesterday. It's like, I have been telling him, during the COVID pandemic, my dad got frustrated because my dad was in the Army and in the Navy. He was in the Navy, and then after he got a chance to leave the Navy because he got seasick, he left the Navy and joined the Army. And then he was in the Army band. He played in an Army band in Europe that traveled around and played in little French towns and stuff. What years? He was in the Navy at the end of Korea. So he never saw any action, but he was in a boat off of Korea at the tail end of Korea that, had to be on alert in case something happened, like in case planes came, but he never actually saw anything happen, right? It's like he was near enough the action to say he was sort of in Korea, kind of, but he wasn't really in Korea, And then he went to the Army because, like I said, he got seasick, and he lived in Europe. He did a few different things in the Army. He played in the band, and he also coached wrestling at the Army high school at the base in Germany. And he met my mom because she taught, I think, biology at the base in Germany. She may have taught English. I'm not sure. She taught both those subjects in her life, so I'm not sure which one she taught at the time. But that's where they met. Apparently, my dad picked up on my mom by saying to her, "Would you like to come outside and look at my engine?" of his car. And my mom said, "Okay," and he went and showed her his Mini Cooper engine. I don't know how that works, but apparently it did. No, it wasn't a sexual innuendo. He really wanted to show her his engine. Just making my coffee here. Almost forgot about it. Often are the occasions when I go to heat up a cup of coffee only to realize I never got the last cup of coffee I heated out of there. So, then, my dad raced Mini Coopers. Yeah, my dad raced Mini Coopers in Europe as well. He and Dale. It was a kind of racing where you have a navigator. So he was the driver, Dale was the navigator. They raced in a number of Mini Cooper races. There's some pictures of them. My dad was also associated with, he was at Le Mans the year that that movie Ford versus Ferrari? He was at Le Mans that year. And the year before as well. And in fact, in the back of one of these books about Le Mans, it talks about him going to the hospital with the widow of a driver or soon to be widow of a driver who died in the race, or died at the hospital, and so his name's in it. I guess it is the endurance one. Yeah, they made a movie Ford versus Ferrari about it. My dad didn't want to see it because it would interfere with his memories, he said. But from his memories, he knew the people in the movie. The way he tells the story The bad guy in the movie was the good guy. In his story, my dad's story, he offered my dad a job when he got back to America if he wanted to go to Michigan. But my dad ended up going to Los Angeles because basically, with what function do people flirt? Is it all first light? You know, Shreds McGee, my dad's example would seem to suggest yes. And so as I grow older and achieve success and comfort, I believe I will understand my hidden ISFP side better while my body is functional and strong. I just have reason to do nothing but grind. You know what, though, Shibo? Here's my concern. You got to be 6 years old and realize you're still grinding, bro. You're still grinding. And you go, I have the wealth. I have the fancy house. I got the car. I got it all. And yet still at work. 60-hour weeks. Why? And then a single tear as you're sipping your highball on the patio of your beachfront mansion. A single tear falls. Why? And your big-titted trophy wife comes out and says, "Do you need a back rub, honey?" And you're like, "No, I got work to do. I got to go back to work. Finish this for me." Well, I don't think people moved quite so fast back in the old days as they do nowadays, probably. I can't hear or feel an inner 5 through 8, but I have reverse type living in my head rent for free for sure. I mean, to a certain extent, it probably links to your personal experience. Although I don't know if this is the case. I always feel like there's kind of like this ESTJ dad that I have always hanging over my shoulders, shaking his head and going, "Why are you doing shit so stupid?" And the answer is, you know, that's the only answer, really. It's just, cause it's my only answer. All right, what can we do to cheer New Jack up? When you're feeling sad, just let your sadness go and take a nice hot bath and eat some ice cream soda, and then you watch TV like local news or 3, and soon you'll feel better. Yes, you will. There. I just give you the solution in song form. Cats versus dogs. I feel like dogs are literal man-made slaves. I can't see them as being their own being. They're, by definition, tools. A cat's companionship is much more worthwhile. Well, I've had a dog and had a wonderful relationship with my dog and love my dog very much. And you split red hot wax all over your flatmate's top. What are you doing? What are you two doing? What are you and your flatmate doing right now? Are you spilling hot wax on each other and saying, "Ew, that stings"? Or you spilt hot wax? You guys are spilling hot wax on each other right now? Ew, ew, like that. Call now. Fodilius. I'm sadder than you, bro. Suck it up. Funny stuff. Funny stuff. That's not called gaslighting. That's called firewarming. It's the positive version of gaslighting. You're finished? Okay, good. I'm glad. Don't burn anymore for stuff, okay? You know what? You could probably get that wax off of there. Just wait for it to dry first and peel it off very slowly. Why does Wim Hof breathing work? I don't even know what Wim Hof breathing is. What's Wim Hof breathing? I've never heard of it. Is it the most exciting kind of breathing there is? It's Wim Hof breathing, Wim Hof breathing. Buy Wim Hof breathing today. Why we breathe. You just basically caused me to extrovertedly and to it go away, I guess. That thing, I don't know what to think about that thing. It's just silly. It's I don't doubt if you direct a lot of attention to your state of being and how it links to your overarching productivity, that you will find means to maximally attain on both levels. Of course, the real question is that a good thing to do, right? Should it be that much work to be? A good relationship is not a relationship that takes a lot of work. They'll tell you that a lot of places. Hey, relationships take work, everybody. You know what? They don't just happen. Good relationships don't just happen. They take work. Actually, probably not that much. Good relationships don't take a lot of work. They're very easy. There's not a lot of conflict. People get along well, and there's not hurt feelings, and people care about trying to avoid hurting each other's feelings and stuff like that, you know? Okay, Japanese culture and their sexual dynamics is incredibly weird. Yeah, according to anime, all the guys are totally disinterested. Most of them, anyway. The vast majority of them are totally disinterested or complete pervs. And the girls are, wildly attracted to these guys who are like cold fish, basically. And then eventually he gets talked into it. It's like the most ridiculous shows are the ones like How Not to Summon a Demon Lord, which is this weird harem show in which all of the girls that he's taking care of are all like, maximally sexualized and all trying to have sex with him, and he's fighting them off the whole time. It's like, it's weird. Sure, you're not a psychopath. Look, the psychology community likes to pathologize in some way, shape, or form every kind of cognitive function stack. They might pathologize ESFPs or ESFJs potentially as learning disabled because they don't abstract that well. ESFJ is probably much less likely because they can FE shit, They might categorize STJs or ENTJs as sociopaths or psychopaths simply because they have a utility interface function first, which does tend to make them view people as objects, as means to an end, But regardless, it's not. Well, Shibo, that sounds awful. I don't know what to tell you about that. I mean, I'll tell you this, Shibo. When I was single, okay. Okay, it's a joke. Fine. I would like to state that I'm very easy to be in a relationship with. Okay, well, we'll make note of that. Lauren Cuthbert. Shrez McGee, are you currently you're so happy your dual is ESFJ, duality, and beta delta quadrant sucks. I can fart all the time. Rachel can fart all the time. So, Shrez McGee, are you currently in a relationship? If not, call Lauren Cuthbert if you like a girl who farts a lot. She's the girl for you. Some people like that, Lauren. I don't think you should. That's not a bug. That's a feature. Put that on your internet dating profiles. I fart a lot, all in caps, exclamation points. I wonder if you get anybody contacting you. You have like a regular profile. I'm looking for my partner in crime. Oh, by the way, I fart a lot! Exclamation point. Just that. Everything else is totally normal. See? Let's see. Oh, I should warn you though. Put it there. I should warn you though. I fart a lot. Some guys going, she seems great, except this last sentence is really throwing me for a loop. Is that something I can put up with? I once deleted. That wasn't me. I didn't delete it. I didn't delete you timestamping my part, I'm sure. That sounds awful, Lauren. Maybe you should eat different food. What are currently your main dietary ingredients? Are you mostly eating like beans and cottage cheese or something? Try eating blander food. Oh, too much alcohol. Well, that's life in the big city. I mean, Skygear, you're not really appreciating the scope and scale of her partage. They're huge, rumbling, bed-shaking events. That's why. That's why she wakes up for everyone. Oops, sorry. Well, you know what, Lauren? I'm going to have a piece of advice for you. Try not to drink so much, okay? Alcohol's a poison, you know? It also makes you make poor decisions. When you smell death, the death smell you back. Is that really a quote from Nietzsche? All right, I'm going to wrap this up. Thanks for being here, everybody. It's been a pleasure. Cheered me up. Fun live stream. Lots of yucks. I'll probably live stream again later. We'll see. Catch you on the flip-flop.